Okay, so as I'm talking, you're going to see the processing of wool from raw fiber right through in our mill. So you'll kind of see this is the picker. We are a semi-worsted spinning and weaving mill. Let me get my note changed. And about 5 hours north of here. We have compiled a couple of farmers before us had compiled this equipment. Some of it is from North Carolina, some from Quebec, from all over North America. Our carder is 100 years old. Our picker is probably older than that. So we process, as I mentioned before, for any Canadian farmer, and we use picture of it on the web. Everybody calls up and says, where did you get that? What's the brand? What's the breed? And this is the end of it there. But the previous owners had missed a sale on one of those. Apparently there's about 4 in North America, and they went home and built one. So it gives us a capacity that a lot of the little mini mills don't have. And so we've done 120 pounds in a day, but yeah, we don't like to do that. But at least, yeah, and we wash twice a week. So that kind of gives us a capacity in our meal that, that not everybody's able to have. So we wash, we spin, we, card, we have a pin drafter, so we're semi-worsted, so we can do quite fine. We have done, and we're talking about the fine yarn, something we love to brag about. We've done 8,960 yards per pound in a mohair. And so we love to brag, but do not ask us to do it again. It took forever. But this equipment has a range that is really quite phenomenal. When it gets up to Lopi, Baba Louie is her name, the spinning friend, and she goes, too slow. So we end up flying when we want really bulky. So, but we have a range that is really quite amazing. Like this very old equipment. We use no other chemicals, but so is this moving along? Should be. Is it? Okay. So we use no other chemicals but soap and soda ash. When we first learned to spin, there was spinning oil and antisets and all those kind of things that you're supposed to be using. Some mills use acids to burn off the vegetation. Our vegetation goes mechanically, and we use no other chemicals but soda ash and soap. And so so when we it's a little tricky to do that because humidity is critical. If it's too humid, things all fall apart. It's not humid enough, everything gets static and wrapped. And there's literally some days we just cannot spin. We just cannot card, which is a little tricky in a commercial operation. So okay, so this is no, that's fine. It's just gonna run. So this is what the equipment looked like when we first picked it up. I had no idea what I was buying. She said, oh, you have a 4-headed pin drafter. And I went, I always wanted a 4-headed dragon. I had no idea what I was getting into. People say, oh, you're living your dream. I said, oh, I never dreamt this. But so it's been a learning experience. I've learned incredible amounts. Our wool whale. So this is stuff that is getting ready to go into the feeder there. That's actually our most modern piece of equipment. So we're not standing in front of the carder. We're feeding, separately. So it's a little tricky. We use natural colors for all our grays and browns and blacks, that kind of thing. And we do small batch natural dyeing. So you will see some color. We can do 10 skeins at a time. We don't dye commercially for other people because it's just not feasible. But what we sell our own product, we do small batch natural dye. We have a dye garden. We harvest wild things. We have a flock, as you saw, of our own sheep. And so you can see the different equipment that we learned how to use. The past owners were really quite lovely and came and spent a couple of weeks with us. and trained us how to work with the equipment. We've since changed, as Ray said, getting rid of the chemicals and things like that. So we have changed processes, but, that's how we learned. Again, I mentioned our capacity, so we will, for intake for farmers, our minimum is 50 pounds coming in, because if you feed that carter at one end, you want something coming up the other end, because the equipment is fairly large. So that's where we start. So small batches, people with one or two. This is the pin drafter that I didn't know what it was, our spinning frame. So that's the capacity that we have. And so what we're finding is our farmers, we're now, they have something added value, and quite a few of our farmers are now starting to go to shows like Twist and Knit City, things like that. So there's value added on the farm, which was normally considered waste product. And so we can kind of help the economy that way. I do take I think we'll have some pictures of it, but I do take our products to the runways in Toronto, and we kind of stand out. But I just want people to know and see that you can be dressed in natural fiber, you can be dressed in something that's not toxic, you can be dressed in something that's highly responsible, and still step out on the runway. It's, Canadians again are known for toques and mittens, and to go beyond that, to be more refined. I mean, we used to use wool in everything, pretty much, even bathing suits, but my dad talks about wet wool bathing suits. They weren't fun to get into, but anyway, so I do take it to the cities and I put it onto the runway. So this is our dyeing, some of the colors. Again, those of you who are dyers know that, natural dyes aren't all beiges. There's some brilliant, brilliant colors. We do grow a lot of our own, but we do work with us. So we have grown indigo and had great field and great success and everything else, and got to dye 3 skeins. So it's not commercially viable for us. So there are a few of this is an indigo. The dress I had on last night was dyed in indigo. We knit, we weave, that kind of thing, and then do garments. We are the only mill in Canada that I'm aware of that actually goes from raw fiber to a finished fashion garment under one roof. So it's kind of, I'm a bit of an extremist. So, when we're talking about, rethinking cloth, the idea of what we do, this is Nicholas. He came to us, he had never been on a loom before, ever. He was looking for a wool blanket to go camping in. He's now our weaver. And you see him sitting there for a week, in there, threading the looms. It just quite remarkable. These are some of his work. But I think, okay, I want something that biodegrades, I want it comfortable, that kind of thing. So as with cotton thread, I use Ontario hardwood or Lake Superior pebble buttons. Basically, we're transitioning from our nylon labels. We're into the cotton ones. We're using them up and then going into cotton. This is some of the pebble buttons. This is actually, I think, fabric that you wove, Deborah. And our own cordage. We do all of that for our I try to stay away from elastics and things like that. So, the kind of growing understanding of toxicity, before, during, and after we're wearing a garment. And so I'm trying to do something that does no harm. So no harm to the sheep, no harm to the wearer, no harm to the producer, no harm at the other end where I'm trying to throw it out. So this stuff, when you're finally done with it, you can, your kids and your grandkids have worn it out, it can be buried in the soil as a nutrient, not a toxin, because there are the chemicals in it. So those are kind of things. We literally have, like I say, our 15-mile fabric, and this is one of the sweaters, and sorry, it sold a minute ago. But this is one of the things. So we do have fabrics 15-mile fabric. So literally it comes from our farm to the mill and leaves it as a finished garment. So you have to be kind of sitting in your field behind your sheep knitting to get a little bit cleaner and more environmentally friendly than that. So we have quite a line. So I designed for me clothing that is comfortable, clothing that will last for, because it's expensive. It's very high quality and it's going to last a long time. So I change size and shape. I don't know about you guys, but I want something that will be easy wearing, go with me. I wear these baggy pants. I have only linen and I have them wool, and that I live inside. So I want it, very comfortable. I have no respect for my clothes at all. It all has to be thrown in the washing machine. I don't know if I've ever owned a dryer, but I certainly don't know to dry. But it's got to be easy to care for. It's and basically does no harm. And now we're understanding, forever chemicals that we're always soaking those into our body, into our endocrine system. And so I kind of like to look up and down and say, well, how many poisons am I wearing today? Is anything touching my skin that's toxic? And so that's where I'm going. And so I'm doing this for me. And then as we're understanding, that's a little bit of coreopsis flower, and that's our 15-mile fabric. And the orange is coreopsis, the salvage. So I do it for me, and then, as we're understanding this, people are going, well, where do you find something natural? We do bedding, we do things like that, and so I just spread it around.
Okay, so I think this is our last section. And you might have been seeing that a lot of what we do is about connecting with other people. So I had the good fortune of meeting people from the early fiber shed, and it just started me on a path. And then through the fiber shed, I met Wave, and this is a shot of Wave's fiber mill. And Wave is the bravest person I know, that she took this on, and she's just been fearless. Many of you will go to Wellington Fibers, I think it's tomorrow. Yeah. And Donna Hancock, who started Wellington Fibers, she's just been such an important part of our fiber shed, and I couldn't do what I do without what Wave and also Wellington Fibers provide for me. I mentioned before that often I use dyed yarn in my practice, and I was lucky to have met this young dyer, very keen, again, I mean, I mostly work by myself, but it's great to have other partners who can do things for you, because I don't want to do everything. So that's Wave and I meeting for an exchange of something. It's just been great to have Wave as a partner. Again, we go back to this farmer, Chris, who was kind of like a farmer philosopher. So when you meet these farmers, you realize it's just not wool that you're getting from them. It's also, you're building a personal connection with them. A lot of my work is kind of inspired by historic patterns, and this was a project that I did very early on when I started up my weaving business, and it was for a gift that was to be presented to then Prince Charles. This was a coverlet I mentioned before that I did for a museum in Niagara, Jordan. It's upside down, unfortunately, but it's hard to get sometimes everything that you want. But this was Leicester, Border Leicester, dyed in madder and indigo. When I first started out, how I got into using locally sourced fiber was through a designer, young designer who came up from LA, and California is where the original fiber shed started. And so she had a lot of ambitious ideas, and she would get things and just, throw bags of wool at me and say, come up with something. So that was kind of fun. If you've never been to Gray's on Dundas West in Toronto, you should go. It's quite a couple, a young couple who just want to promote locally sourced fiber. I also work with a cap maker in Ottawa, and that was a great partnership for me because I just love those turn of the century flat caps, and to have my fabric in them was kind of, it's very special to me. It's just, this fabric just is so beautiful. This was fabric that we did for a project with Campaign for Wool, and they did a largish kind of bulky jacket. And then I made something that was a little bit more streamlined and tailored. And there we go.
Okay, so, my name's on the door kind of thing, and people go, oh, wait, what you've done. I haven't done any of this alone. I couldn't do any of this without the community around me. We have a really lovely mixture of people. This is Oliver. He's our pin drafter. But Heather, she was a farmer. We got together at the beginning. She was the one that knew breeds, knew how to spin. I didn't know any of that stuff. And she was the one that skipped for joy when she saw that old equipment. And I'm going, what have we done? She's going, isn't it beautiful? So I blame her for all of this because she knew what she was doing. Peter, who came along and said, well, I like old equipment because you can't go and hire, the Carter repairman. Can you come in and fix a bell, please? On a 100-year-old machine. So that was a really advantageous. We call our mill automated because most of the pieces have been manufactured or made by my husband, automated. So we are, so we have Joy who does our dyeing. She is, is running our entire dye program and garden. Carolyn is fiber artist that comes in and works with us through the summer, does a lot of our felting. My sister Reed started with the web, and all of these people are volunteers. We have people from 18 to 91. And they all work together, share together, learn from each other, and it's really a lovely environment. And there's Nicholas, that's the fellow who never had woven before, and some of his first fabrics. You can see how he goes. So, and also when you're hiring someone, you can't say, oh, I'd like a pin drafter operator, please. So everybody has to be trained. Everybody, so when I'm hiring, I look for aptitude, attitude, are you okay with equipment? Nicholas was a short order cook. Oliver worked in the factory. Kiana was a flower arranger. So they come in with their resumes saying, this is my education, this is my experience. I say, well, so what? But let's sit down and talk, So it's that kind of thing. It's tricky sometimes, but I can't say enough good about my staff on the floor. They're amazing. And this is Nina. She actually was from OCAD here in Toronto. So she did have some experience, kind of thing. So I am trying to kick myself out because I'm not planning my future, because I'm not gonna say in 20 or 30 years, I'm gonna retire a millionaire. I probably won't be doing that in 20 or 30 years. So I am looking for young people with attitude, aptitude, and want to grow it. And that's kind of my investment in the community in the future. We have 4 cottage industries where we have a knitter, not a weaver, a sewer, quilter, and a felter. So just right around in the area. So we support cottage industry. We do workshops. So both what we will teach, try to keep the skills going. And it doesn't necessarily have to be textile skill. This is one of our workshops, actually, basket making. We've done soap making, candle making, anything that, to keep skills going. Some we teach ourselves, others with skills can come and say, I'd like to teach a workshop. So we will arrange to do a workshop. So that also helps other people with their businesses to have an income. We do the WOW challenge, which is the Wave Ontario Wardrobe Challenge. I started thinking, oh, I'm making everything from Ontario. Let's see what other people can do. And so we put it out every year and we say, build whatever from whatever you find in Ontario. And we've had everything from somebody who was hunting and tanning and somebody with their own sheep to others who go to their closet and remake something, or somebody who goes to the Stallion. It's about having fun. And then the winners, get product from us. We have, independent entrepreneurs. This is a sock maker that's going to do socks for us. Pamela, who came with me today, was one of the judges on the WOW Challenge. We go to fall fairs, we set up looms so people and teach, the kids are making the looms, and so then we take their names and raffle off the looms or the carpets. There's a makers group that uses the space. We're expanding into a second building, so we're setting up a more permanent maker's space, and they come in, they use the equipment, they share, stitch, carry on, talk, that kind of thing. And then we have volunteers, we have interns. So we've got an intern arriving next week, and he's from Germany. He'll be with us probably 3 months. We have somebody from France for a month, somebody from BC. Sometimes an intern is just for a week or two. But the idea is somebody who wants to know how to do a meal. We were told, never share your secrets. I'm like, are you kidding me? Here, and so we've had people who have wanting to start something like this. So I share all of that, and I know what goes into it. So knock your socks off. If you want to do this, I'll give you all my secrets. And we also had help in Northern Ontario from the NOHFC, which is the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund. So the government has pitched in. There's been a few independent groups of Corrales. Some of you may know Corrales. It's international, and Paro. It's a great community is growing, and it's really quite a wonderful place to be. Thank you, Deborah and Wade. We're out of time, because 5:30 dinner and marketplace opens. Wade and Deborah are both happy to answer questions. They're in a booth at the marketplace tonight. So if you have any questions, they're on. Thank you. Is a quick one or anything else?
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, I'll get myself out of your way.
For our folks that are online, we are finishing up now, and we'll start back with the session on Saturday morning. And it's great to have you with us. Thank you.